Max Wardell here. Welcome back to Overhead Athletics. Today I'm joined by Mark. Mark is one of our shoulder patients. He's actually had a rotator cuff repair. What we're starting to do is get him ready to kind of manage some of these things on his own. He's had a bit of a stiff shoulder. We're going to get him into a little bit of a strengthening routine as well as some things that he's going to do to start to mobilize that shoulder into the end range positions. And so what we like to start with a lot of times, and these are actually Mark's bands, which is even better because now he's got the equipment that he's going to use at home to go through a lot of this stuff. And we like to start with a nice supraspinatus exercise where he's just doing a simple push out. And we'll have him go for maybe 30 seconds on an exercise like this and do a few sets just doing your push outs there.
Now, does it matter? Would this be better? Would this be better?
Your kind of choice, dealer's choice.
Okay.
And just working on that cranial portion of the rotator cuff here, starting to activate some things before we get into some of our other exercises. Now what we've done here today is we've done some body blade activity or some oscillatory training techniques, but the idea being, let's just get that rotator cuff turned on and active, because a lot of times our end range motion is limited by control of the rotator cuff, and so we like to turn it on with something really simple. It's going to start to load that repaired tendon. We're about, what, 4 months or so out?
Right, just about.
So about 4 months. So now we're kind of at that point where we can really start to add in some more strengthening based things, start to get that collagen to align like we like to see it align. And he's going to go for 30 seconds, nice and controlled, just pushing out against that resistance band. Shouldn't cause pain, shouldn't cause discomfort any more than standard exercising techniques. And once we've kind of activated there, we're going to have him bend his elbows up to 90 degrees. So bend up to right here.
And all these things I need to focus on the shoulder blades being.
Yes, so shoulder blade positioning, great point. Everything is tight, and then he's going out against that. So keep those elbows in and try to turn out. Good. And you see how he compensates side to side, so we know this is something that he's got to work on. He's limited a little bit in external rotation, but not to the extent that he was before. So we'll go and just get some general activation exercises here. A set of 30 seconds on each or so as his warm-up routine for some of this other stuff. We'll get into mobilization, and then we'll try to reinforce those end range positions after we've mobilized it. Good. So once he feels a little bit of burning, a little bit of fatigue, we'll kind of go into some of this stuff. Good. All right, so let's hop over here. Now, what we like to do with one of these bands, this is about 1.5 inches to 1.25 inches mobility band here, or jump stretch band, goes on the foot, comes up over the shoulder, and he's going to come onto here. Now, there's a bony prominence on your shoulder right on the top. It's got to be just off of that, and you can kind of get some inferior gliding or mobilization down in the socket in different positions. So I'll let Mark kind of run through that.
And just let you, I found these categorized under pull-up assists.
Pull-up assist, that's another place you could look. So most sporting goods stores will have these sorts of tools for you guys, but you can also buy them online. So squat down, get it up there. We got a nice padded barbell. Use your squat rack for this. Now he's just off this shoulder bone, so that's the acromion. Now he's just off that, and he's just kind of letting it down glide in the socket. And I like to have something padded under the arm so we're not crushing the arm at the same time. And he's kind of in internal rotation flat here, and he can kind of move around, turn his chest one way, kind of face away, and then kind of face towards me, and find those points of restriction and hang out in them. Squat down and up, that gives him a little more abduction there. So he's just getting a slight down glide in the socket to kind of center that humeral head, get some of those fibers of the capsule that are stiff underneath to start to be a little bit stretched, put some inputs into that system. And then we'll have him try some external rotation so he kind of finds where he's tight. So put that hand up on that bar there. And he can, same thing here, get a little down glide in the socket. Now because he's up in this position, he's tensioning different aspect of the capsule. It's letting this kind of support the humerus so his shoulder can relax as much as possible and just kind of get some gliding around and kind of twist and find those tight areas to mobilize overhead. And what we'll find in a lot of our rotator cuff repairs is they get stiff going up into flexion. And by simply just giving them an inferior glide down in the socket, we can alleviate a lot of that pinching impingement type of pain up here because you're giving it a little more space in the top of the socket. So at home, he's going to spend a couple minutes doing this. Now, after he's done this and given himself a little down glide, and this is a little different than what we do with some of our total shoulders. If you've had a total shoulder replacement, you should check out the other video that we've made on that. he's just gonna spend a couple minutes, and then this is also Mark's band, a little bit thinner. Mark, what is this one? How thick?
I'm not sure.
About
it's less than an inch, so maybe it's 3/4.
Yeah, so 1/2 inch, 3/4, something. Not too thick. You can see it's relatively thin, and now he can start to get some traction in some different positions and kind of stretch around there. So let's give that a try, Mark. If you guys have noticed on the videos, I always show my right hand because I'm right-handed, but we're dealing with a left-sided issue here, so Mark's going to show the left side, which is great. Switch knees for me. Great, good.
I want to be on the knee that's on the side of the operating
Yeah,
shoulder.
just get a little length through that whole side there. And then he's just getting a little traction. Now go ahead and back up a little bit for me. Good. And now he can kind of lean forward and lean into it. And so the band, he's trying to relax as much as possible. You see how he's gripped that band is, the hand is relatively relaxed and the band is kind of pulling and giving him just a little distractive load on that shoulder. And this is pretty good flexion, and he's going to kind of go in different positions here. Now try to rotate and face Nick over there at the camera. Try to rotate under that arm if you can. Try to duck your head under. So now he's hitting different areas of the lat, getting different areas of that flexion. So he's kind of finding where he's restricted, and he can do a little bit in external rotation. And if you're going to start to mobilize kind of this thumb forward position and internal rotation here, you can start to twist that thumb under. Now you got to be careful here because this can cause a little bit of pinching. But when you have some traction load from a band, it's the best time to kind of start to do some of that stuff. So we're mobilizing those end range positions for him here. And then what we'll do is we'll start to work on an up the back technique here right after this one. Once again, you don't want to push into too much tissue resistance or push through any pain. I tell people poke pain, but don't stab it, meaning 3 out of 10 at the tops. So he spends a little bit of time there. Now come on up. And we'll pull this band down. Once again, this isn't too heavy of a band. We'll put it about waist height or so. Now, your lift-offs there. Grab the band, good, now flip around. And you can do this at a various angles, so if Mark, if you get pain when you face straight forward, do it right here. And pull toward your butt cheek. So now he's starting to, come closer, you're way too far.
Yeah, I am.
Now, he's just getting a little resistance, so he's starting to train that kind of off the back motion here. Good, and he's gonna activate in this range, which we gotta be careful. You see, he's not going way, way far back. And he's going to turn a little bit and just kind of let your hand come up your back a little bit. So come up to your tailbone and just kind of hold there. And so the band is giving you a little bit of pull off that forces him to actually use some of his supraspinatus. And I'm not trying to get really high. I'm not trying to get really far off the back. I'm trying to be able to stabilize and just kind of control with some light resistance in this position. And these are more like an isometric style of activity at this end range. I would say I would hold these till you're at least 4 months out from surgery. Sometimes if you're really kind of sensitive, pain sensitive, I might wait till 5. But you want to start to be able to tuck that back hand in the pants, be able to tuck your shirt in. It's kind of a fundamental motion there, and it's a combined motion of into extension and internal rotation. So he spends a little time there and he comes out of it nice and slow, nice and slow. And now, where's your green band? Green band. We go back through another round of rotator cuff strengthening. So there. So we spent some time mobilizing. Now we got to try to strengthen in some of these positions and even get you into that kind of straight arm position and just get some pulses over top. So general.
So having it wrapped like this as opposed to me hooking it on my thumbs gives some added benefit?
Added resistance, yeah, for sure. So if you want to do more endurance, just grab it with the thumbs there. And he's just trying to reinforce a little strength in these positions.
And the whole time focusing on the shoulder blades pushing down, right?
Tuck the ribs down, tight, tight, tight with the core, good. And when I started working with Mark, it was probably, what, a month and a half, 2 months out. We started working together a little bit. So we've been working together for about 2 months here. And he was pretty stiff, pretty limited for a little while. And some people just are stiffer in nature than other people, and just I'm one of those people that's stiff and has to spend a lot more time on the mobilization component. And then once you do that, you get a little strong in these kind of end ranges. So now we're on to just some serratus strengthening and trying to get Mark strong, kind of that scapular positioning throughout the range of motion, because we've done some fatiguing of the rotator cuff. And this isn't all that Mark's doing. Mark is one of those guys that's going to do every single thing you tell them. And that's why I love them as a patient. Just wanted to show for video purposes some of the things that we're starting to think about with some of our rotator cuff repairs when we get to that 4-month mark, when they're still maybe a few degrees shy what we want to see in end range terminal flexion or internal rotation or external rotation, and then what we're starting to do to continue that strengthening progression. And so instead of just doing your ceiling punches where you're just laying on the back doing this, we can start to grab a kettlebell of a various size, whatever kind of works for the patient or the athlete. We'll go on the back here. And what we'll start to do is, with that left arm only, bend those knees. So bending the knees keeps the low back to the floor. Let's try this one's 9 pound. I want to show him how strong Mark really is here. And then he can kind of go into different amounts of external rotation, press to the sky, hold. And you see how he's kind of got to stabilize that whole unit there. And then slowly let down. Now he's trying to stabilize this bottom up kettlebell. Go. And now we can either have him roll a little bit, keep pressing the sky and roll towards that side. Roll your body, keep reaching to the sky and roll. And come on back. So just getting a little bit of rolling will allow him to abduct that shoulder blade a little more. Or a little mini abdominal crunch. Keep reaching to the sky. You'll kind of teach him to control that end range there a little bit better, which is something we like to see in anybody who's had any sort of trauma to the shoulder. So a little crunch again. Sets of 5, sets of 6, sets of 8 work perfect here. And then just trying to get them to do a static hold and that reach to the sky. And then hold that. Come on, hold it. And I'm here until he kind of fatigues out. At home, he doesn't have this luxury of having someone to spot him, reach to the sky. Come on, reach. Good. Kind of until we start to see him fatigue. We don't let him crush his head with the kettlebell here. So this is 13 pounds. This is not light. Good. Very good. So some of our thoughts there. So let's strengthen the rotator cuff in just some comfortable positions. And then let's start to mobilize those end range positions and start to just teach the shoulder to activate in those ranges. Thanks for being in the video.
Well, thank you.
Mark's going to do great because he works hard on his home exercise program. And that's one of the key things that a lot of patients miss is 23% of patients have compliance to an HEP. And so we're kind of starting to show what's actually possible with a lot of these more dedicated patients like Mark. So I want to thank you guys for watching the video. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you guys in the next one.